Hello gorgeous people. It's a bit wet out there, and so I thought I would jump on and share with you what I'm doing tonight with my cooking, because it's something that's a bit of a go-to for me. It's a bit of a UK comfort food. I'm sure wherever you are from, you have your own version of this, or your own version of a comfort food, or something that you go to that feels yummy, that feels comforting, that feels like home when the weather's not great or you're not feeling great, one of those things. And I've kind of tweaked this recipe now to be maybe a little bit more healthy and more kind of akin to how I like to eat. So it's wet, and it's not cold, but it is wet. So whether it's wet or cold, I tend to jump to these kind of UK comfort foods that I used to love growing up. And one of my favorites was Apple Crumble. So if you've just jumped on, I can see if you've been watching me, let us know what your go-to kind of comfort food is. So what I've done, we had like loads of different apples. I didn't get too precious about it. I haven't even peeled them. And I just chopped them up and cooked them up a little bit so they're a little bit softer. Popped them in these 2 trays. And because then I actually didn't cook enough, because you know what it's like when you cook fruit, it just kind of condenses all the way down. I haven't really quite got enough for these 2 trays. So I've thrown in some blueberries, which back home, that would have been blackberries. Who's English? Who knows about going and picking all their blackberries in the fields? And we would have gone out in the evenings, picked all the blackberries in the local fields, and come back and made apple and blackberry crumble, which was my total favourite. So I've got blueberries instead, and in our local organic veg box that we have each week, we often have some really super ripe bananas that they're kind of getting rid of, and so I always freeze those. And so we have bananas in here as well. So we've got banana, blueberry, and very ripe bananas. Now, I poured out all the water on that, on the apples, which I don't always do. I like to leave a little bit of water in there, but because I've just poured out all of that liquid, I like to squeeze over. One of the other things I like to do is just squeeze over a lemon or lime. This one's going to be a little bit like not very juicy at all. Here we go. Because I don't like it to be too dry. Don't know about you. And the lemon or lime just gives a super extra zing to the fruit and stops it being like too sweet. But I always find that it brings out the flavour. Does anyone else do that? And I used to do that with the kids actually, when we just had raw fruit, and I'd chop up fruit for the kids when they were little. And I always used to squeeze over a lime or a lemon. It would stop the fruit going brown, and it would also just really bring out the flavour. I think it helps with digestion and the acidity. So just trying to squeeze as much lime out of there as I can. They're being a bit resistant to being squished. All right. And then, let's go wash my hands. As you know, I'm a sucker for doing things that are going to be digestive and sort of well balanced. I like putting in, where are we? Some cardamom and cinnamon with the fruit. The cardamom is cooling, and it's just fragrant. It's just beautiful. I love it. Sprinkle that over. And nice and liberal. And a bit of cinnamon for, again, warming up the digestion. Might want a spoon for this one, otherwise you end up with like a ridiculous amount of cinnamon. Who's done that? Tipped out the whole pot and then ended up scraping it back. Sprinkle that over. And I'm never everyone always asks me for my recipes, and I'm not very good at giving recipes because I'm not very good at telling you what the amounts are, because I go by feel. I tend to use my hands to measure things out. I tend to mix with my hands, and I go with kind of texture and feeling rather than absolute quantities. Or because I can't be bothered to get the scales out and have to clean them. Let's go for ease and grace and trust ourselves, right? So with the topping, I do a whole bunch of different options. Tonight we have a gluten-free flour. I don't have plain flour today, so I've got self-raising, which you don't need, but I've got self-raising because that's all I've got. So again, I don't get too precious about that, I just use what I have. So I've got gluten-free flour, which happens to be self-raising. I have got panela. So if you've ever used that, it's panela or rapadura sugar. So that's a sweetener that is literally sugarcane dehydrated. It's not purified or chemically changed in any way, so it retains a lot more of the iron and the trace minerals from the sugar cane, and it's a lot more healthy for you. It's not so sweet, and it's more digestible for the body because it's more complete. So I use panela rapadura. You could use coconut oil or any kind of oil. I do use butter. I use organic butter because I just love the taste of it, and we do all right with cooked dairy in this family. And what else do I use? I use some LSA in there, linseed sunflower and almond mix. I use some shredded organic coconut, and I put some ginger powder in there again for digestion. Mix it all up. So as a rough gauge, I put all the dry flour type ingredients, so the flour, the coconut and the LSA, I put in at the beginning, and just put in as much as I think I want as the overall general quantity. Then I put in the butter, and it's normally about a third, I would say, of what you've put in flour. Probably less than a third if it was going to be weight, but it's very hard to kind of say when you're looking at the actual quantities. If you're not looking at a quantity, you're feeling it as a kind of weight. So anyway, I put some butter in, and you want to work that through with your hands. When you work it through with your hands, you totally get a sense for whether you've got enough butter or not. If it's really, really dry in your flour and you squeeze that crumb together, it won't stick together, right? It'll stay too crumbly. Whereas if you can squeeze it together and it sticks together, but when you just run it between your hands, it quickly crumbles, you've got the right amount of butter in. If you stick it together and it's really sticky and you can't crumble it, you put too much butter in, so you need to add more flour. All right, that's basically how I know. And then after that, I add sugar. Less sugar than sort of anything else. I add it in, and again, use my hands to spread it all through. And then I just taste it. I literally get some in my hand and I stick my tongue into it and I taste it. And I just now know that kind of amount of sweetness and flour and butter and sugar that I want. If it's too sweet, I'm like, well, overdone it. If it just tastes of flour, then I know I just need a little bit more sweetness, yeah, to bring out the flavour. And that's kind of it. Trust yourself. It's all part of it, you know, of doing it different every time and having a little bit of a surprise. And then I just sort of shake it on, give it a whirl. Let's see if we've got about the right amount. Is it looking all right? And then I think just about everything goes on 180, doesn't it? Doesn't just about everything go on 180 unless you're doing like a slow cooker thing? So you just sort of sprinkle it over lightly. I don't pack it down or push it down or anything. You don't want it. You want it nice and light. You don't want it really hard and heavy. It's just a little sprinkling over. Nice. Try and cover all the fruit anyway. And then yeah, 180, probably about 20. I'll check it after 20 minutes because it's always different depending on what tray you've got in, what flour you're using, what the day's like. So I'll check it after 20 minutes. And it'll probably take more like 25, 30 minutes and it'll be super yum. And I don't know about you, but when I get anything out really, really hot, it never tastes as good as if it's been sat for like 20 minutes, half an hour and just warmed and cooled down until it's a bit more just warm and not super, super hot. So that's where the kind of patience comes in and self-control, because we all want it, we can all smell it. But if I have it and it's like super hot, it's just, I don't know, the flavours haven't quite settled in or something, it's not so yummy. And then we'll usually have that with, I don't know, a variety of things in this house. The boys often have ice cream, we might have cream, we might have yogurt, coconut yogurt, biodynamic yogurt. I think we've got a mix today. Oh, and I picked up yesterday at a really beautiful, I think it's called All Things Good. Neil or All Things Good. It's where we have a cooperative veggie box that we get from All Things Good up at Neil's, and he's on Steve Irwin Way as you head up towards Landsborough from Brisbane. And they have some beautiful things, and I picked up there yesterday a raspberry organic coconut milk ice cream. Yum! With dark chocolate pieces in it. So I'll probably be having that with that tonight. And when we have something like this, it tends to be our dinner, because there's enough calories and goodness in there for anyone, hey? And so it will tend to be, we'll be like, oh yeah, we're having crumble for dinner. You don't really need another meal and that. It's got lots of goodness with that LSA, coconut, yumminess, fruit. There we go. Awesome. I look forward to that in about 20-30 minutes, and then of course the waiting time. All right, gorgeous souls, stay dry, stay safe, and let us know your favourite recipes for when it's kind of wet / not really cold, but you just want something yummy and warm in your belly. All right, gorgeous ones, have a great weekend. See you later.